You must have cheated. There's no way a kid like you got a perfect score. Those words hit harder than a slap, slicing through the silence like a cold blade. And they came from none other than Miss Karen Whitlow, age 46, pale as chalk, colder than ice, standing at the front of room 203 as if she were a judge delivering a sentence. She held the stack of math tests in her hands like damning evidence, her sharp, suspicious eyes locked onto one student, Malik Denver. 16 years old. Quiet. Brilliant. Invisible until today. Malik blinked. "Excuse me." The entire class froze. You could hear the ceiling fan creaking overhead, barely clinging to life, as if even it were too stunned to spin. No one dared move, not even Aiden Beckley, the class clown known for disrupting lectures with belches that echoed off walls. Now he sat still, wide-eyed like everyone else. Miss Whitlow stepped forward slowly, her heels clicking against the tile floor like a metronome of judgment. In her hand, Malik's test, a perfect score, circled in red like a bullseye. "You expect me to believe this?" she said, voice dripping with disdain. "You, someone who barely speaks in class, who's from the South Side, aced my advanced trigonometry test? Outscored every other student by nearly 20 points." She let out a laugh that carried no humor, only doubt. "This isn't just suspicious. It's impossible." Malik sat still, but inside a storm brewed. His jaw tightened, fists coiled into silent defiance beneath the desk. Around him, 24 pairs of eyes bore into his skin, some wide with confusion, others lowered with guilt, and a few quietly agreeing with her. "I studied all weekend," Malik replied, voice low but steady. "Worked through every example in the book. Stayed late with Mr. Lauren for tutoring." But she wasn't listening. She thrust the test toward his face like it was stolen property. "Don't lie to me," she snapped. "I've been teaching 20 years. I know when something doesn't add up." "No, ma'am," Malik said, his tone still calm but steel-hard. "What doesn't add up is you thinking I can't be smart because I'm black." A gasp rippled from the back of the room. Miss Whitlow's face twisted, pale skin turning a blotchy red. "You watch your tone with me, young man. And you watch your assumptions," Malik shot back, standing to his full height. His hoodie was worn, his jeans faded, but he stood like a king, shoulders square, chin high, eyes unshaken. "You never even looked at my work. Just saw my name and thought, no way. I'm reporting this to the office," she barked. "This is going on your record." "Good," Malik said louder now. "Let's go to the principal. I've got nothing to hide." Just 2 years ago, Malik was a different person, angry, distracted, nearly expelled after a fight. But everything changed the day his older brother, Marcus, was shot walking home in a hoodie. Malik never forgot his last words. "Be better than me." So Malik picked up the pieces. Picked up the books. Late nights buried in equations. Mornings watching YouTube tutorials on math tricks while the world still slept. He built a website to help other kids from rough neighborhoods learn math, made cheat sheets, solved problems for fun. He found focus, not just for himself, but for Marcus, for the promise he made at that hospital bed. None of that mattered to Miss Whitlow. To her, he was still a black kid from the wrong side of town. 15 minutes later, the tension followed them into Principal Donald Reyes' office. Mr. Reyes, a tall man with storm gray hair and a tired face, sat behind his desk flipping through Malik's test. His brows knit together as he read, then lifted his gaze to the boy across from him. "You're saying you solved every problem on your own?" "Yes, sir." "And you're accusing Miss Whitlow of bias?" "I'm saying she accused me without even checking my work." Reyes turned to Miss Whitlow. "Did you review his solution steps?" "I didn't need to," she said stiffly. "It was too clean. Too perfect. I've seen fake scores before." Reyes exhaled deeply and tapped his desk. "You remember we installed cameras in every classroom 2 months ago," he said quietly. "The parent board insisted on it." Miss Whitlow's face turned white as paper. Reyes opened his laptop. Clicked. The screen flickered to life, and the footage rolled. There was Malik, alone at his desk. Pencil in hand. Focused. Steady. For the entire hour, he never looked up, never touched a phone, never whispered or glanced at another paper. Just problem after problem, worked through like a machine of thought and grit. Meanwhile, other students exchanged notes, passed phones, whispered behind cupped hands. But none of them had been accused. The footage ended with Malik calmly walking to the front and handing in his test, first in the room. Clean. Honest. Undeniable. Reyes closed the laptop. Slowly. His eyes locked onto Miss Whitlow. "Well," he asked, voice sharp. She stammered. I was just trying to protect the integrity of. No, you weren't. His voice rose an octave. You were making assumptions. Dangerous ones. Then he stood. Miss Whitlow, you are hereby placed on immediate suspension, pending investigation. This school does not tolerate discrimination, intentional or otherwise. She opened her mouth, but only silence came out. The kind of silence that tastes like shame. Outside the office, Malik stepped into the hallway. No smirk. No swagger. Just quiet strength in every step. His shoulders didn't slump. His eyes didn't fall. He walked like a young man who'd just pulled his truth out from under a mountain of doubt and stood on it like a throne. Near the counselor's office, Miss Bennett waited for him, eyes kind. Hey, Malik, she said softly. He didn't say anything right away. Just nodded. Because for the first time in a long time, Malik Denver didn't need to explain himself. The world had finally seen what he already knew. He wasn't a cheater. He was a genius. Malik Denver stood in the counselor's office, his heart pounding as Miss Bennett handed him a sealed envelope. Someone from the National Math Scholars Program watched your online tutorials, she said, her voice soft but filled with pride. They asked me to pass this along to you. Malik tore open the envelope, his hands trembling. As his eyes scanned the contents, his breath caught in his throat. The letter offered a full scholarship, room and board, mentorship, and a national math internship. Tears welled up in his eyes, not from sadness, but from the weight of victory. He had proven them all wrong. The next morning, Malik walked back into room 203, where a substitute teacher greeted him with a smile. You must be Malik, she said. I read your test score. You're brilliant. For the first time in weeks, Malik smiled. He took his seat, opened his math notebook, and got to work, this time with the freedom of knowing no one could hold him back. He was no longer weighed down by the doubt that others had placed on him. But little did he know, the storm wasn't over. The story was far from finished. By Monday morning, the halls of Lincoln Heights High were buzzing with Malik's name. He wasn't just the quiet black kid from Southside anymore. He was a math genius, now with a full scholarship and a viral classroom video that had put his teacher, Miss Whitlow, under investigation for racial bias. Some celebrated Malik as a local hero, while others weren't so quick to embrace the truth. As Malik walked through the crowded hallways, he heard the murmurs and whispers. A tall senior named Grayson slapped him on the back. Didn't know you had it in you, man. Congrats. Thanks, Malik replied, but as Grayson walked away, one of his friends muttered just loud enough for Malik to hear. Still think he cheated. Probably just didn't get caught. Malik stopped in his tracks, but said nothing. He was learning that proving your worth doesn't always change people's minds, especially when those minds are clouded by bias. He knew the truth, and that was enough for him. Meanwhile, Principal Donald Reyes sat in his office, staring at the angry email from the district superintendent. The incident had caught the attention of the Board of Education and the local press. A reporter had gotten a hold of the classroom footage, and the headline read, "Black teen called a cheater, school camera proves otherwise." The article spread quickly, and parents, teachers, and alumni were calling for action. The pressure was mounting on the school, and Reyes knew there was no turning back. That afternoon, a local news crew arrived outside the school. Cameras, microphones, and bright lights filled the air as Malik stood next to Miss Bennett, calm but nervous. A woman with a notepad approached him, the weight of the moment settling in. "Malik, how did it feel when your teacher accused you of cheating?" the reporter asked. Malik paused, collecting his thoughts. Then, in a voice that was steady and full of truth, he said, "It felt like I wasn't seen, like my skin made me invisible." The reporter's face softened, her pen poised over the notepad. "And what do you want to say to other kids going through the same thing?" Malik looked straight into the camera, his voice unwavering. "Don't ever shrink yourself because someone else doubts you. Study hard, speak up, and never forget you belong just as much as anyone else." That Friday evening, the school gymnasium was packed with parents, teachers, students, and board members. The air was thick with tension, like the calm before a storm. Miss Whitlow sat in the front row, her face drawn and pale. She hadn't spoken publicly since the footage aired, but now she was ordered to appear. Malik was there, too, seated beside his mother, Nia Denver. A single mother who had worked tirelessly to raise two sons with grace, strength, and faith. A board member stood up. "Before we begin, I'd like to thank Malik Denver for his courage. This meeting will address whether Miss Whitlow will remain employed with our district." The room fell into a hushed silence. Eyes darted nervously, and whispers filled the air. The chairwoman turned to Miss Whitlow. "You may speak." Miss Whitlow rose slowly, holding a folded paper in her hands. "I've taught for over 2 decades," she began, "and I truly believed I was fair. But I see now that I had blind spots, dangerous ones. I made an assumption about Malik, not based on his work, but based on everything else, his background, his quietness, his skin." Dead silence filled the room. "I apologize to Malik and to every student I've ever underestimated," she continued. "I was wrong." For the first time in her career, Karen Whitlow admitted her mistake. The room sat in stunned silence. 10 minutes later, the board returned, and the chairwoman stood. "Miss Whitlow, due to a clear violation of our equity and non-discrimination policies and a pattern of bias found in additional footage from prior semesters, the board has voted unanimously to terminate your employment, effective immediately." The room murmured with disbelief, but Miss Whitlow nodded without a word and walked out. As she passed Malik on her way out, she stopped, looked him in the eye, and whispered, "I'm sorry." Malik didn't reply. His silence spoke louder than any words ever could. A week later, Malik stood on stage at the Atlanta Regional Youth Achievement Awards. The spotlight bathed him in a warm glow as the crowd erupted in applause. Camera flashes popped, and Malik held a glass trophy that read, "Excellence in STEM, Malik Denver." As he looked out at the cheering crowd, his eyes locked on his little cousin, Elijah, sitting in the front row with a t-shirt that read, "Future Genius." Malik smiled, knowing that this moment wasn't just about him. It was about every black boy who had been told they weren't smart enough, every student who had been doubted because they didn't fit the mold, and every child who had ever been made to feel invisible. Months later, Lincoln Heights High rolled out new training for teachers: anti-bias education, equity checks, and classroom transparency. And guess who helped design the new math curriculum? Malik Denver. As for Miss Whitlow, she had moved to a small town up north, trying to rebuild her life quietly, carefully. Because when you underestimate someone based on their color, their background, or their zip code, karma doesn't knock gently. It kicks the door down. And Malik, well, he didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. He had already shown the world who he truly was.